So if we take a look at technology and what's happening in the technology sector, one of the interesting things I found was the use of airships. Airships back in the 30s obviously became quite a big thing around the news as they exploded and killed lots of people, and we've never really touched them since. But NASA has been doing a lot of research with some American firms, and they've been building airships. They've been moving away. This is where, when you get marketers to talk about science, you need them to repeat things as they were written. Otherwise, they get things very wrong. They're moving away from hydrogen, which is highly flammable, and into helium to drive these and to pilot these. And one of the biggest areas that they're finding that airships can provide the most opportunity in the world today is actually in moving cargo. The volume of cargo that they can move is in the region of hundreds of tons at any given time. They reckon this technology will be available within the next decade, and one of the biggest ways that they see this being used around the world is actually in getting that cargo into underdeveloped countries with low infrastructure. And so all of a sudden, you can just hover your way over and drop off everything that you need from an infrastructure point of view instead of having to build the infrastructure and get the roads. How did Rome conquer the world? They did it by building roads. What we're saying is that this airship technology will allow us to be able to get into places we've never been able to get into before, to lay down infrastructures from the inside out, and to still provide economic growth without actually having to create the infrastructural growth into that. And so we really need to start thinking about this kind of technology, and they do reckon within the next decade this technology will be available. Canada have just bought, I think it's 45 crafts carrying 50 tons each to be able to handle their infrastructure needs as well. It's not a great presentation unless you have James Bond in it. James Bond, the latest movie, brought out a really, really fantastic car that was printed in 3D. First 3D car, first vehicle ever printed in 3D. Now, most of the infrastructure that we look in the motor industry, where we look at 3D technology, is used in the space of innovation, creating parts that we need to now to kind of manufacture, and we create beta engines, and we're working with different things. And that 3D technology has helped us to speed up the process of innovation, because we don't have to create construction lines to actually handle this. The idea of actually printing an entire vehicle is quite absurd, and we wonder, is the cost of this actually even worthwhile doing? But I'll tell you what's happening that's really interesting, is when you take 3D printing as an idea, not just in the industry of transportation, but if you take it as an infrastructure and a technology shift across the world, and you couple it with the fact that through things like social media and the internet, consumers have got a lot more voice than they've ever had before. And so what we're starting to see is consumers are starting to demand customized solutions, which their industries aren't ready to handle. And because these industries aren't ready to handle them yet, because basically to create a solution, we have to go so far back in the distribution channels, so far back in the creation channels to actually get that product out to a customer. Firstly, it takes ages. And secondly, by the time that's happened, the whole consumer market has moved on. And so we actually need to find ways to be able to meet these demands a lot quicker. And 3D printing is starting to do this in consumer products all over the place. There are websites that you can go in and you could say, I'd like a glass shaped like this, and you just draw it on a piece of paper. And they will design that, mock it up, and do it in 3D printing and email it. I mean, not email it to you, but post it to you. And so we're starting to see a world where customized products are not only just what people want, but are actually also deliverable through technology like 3D printing. And so we might start to see some really fantastic vehicles that are one-off vehicles on the roads at any given point, such as this particular vehicle. The technology that has actually fascinated me the most in this presentation has been evacuated tube technology. Now, I'm sure that most people in this room have a deep understanding of this. But if you're sort of new to the idea, it's very simple. You create a tube, you take all the air out so there's no friction, and you move people from one point to the other using very, very little thrust at the end of the day. And your carbon emissions drop, your usage on minerals and oils drop in the same place, and a whole ton of opportunities now open up. Now, given the fact that you often need a long tube to do this, where they're really starting to see opportunities here is actually in city-to-city transport from one point to another,